Martina, you're
How are
right.
you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I haven't long been woken up. I can't believe it. I,
I'm just trying to. I'm trying to balance my phone. I've like put it in a pencil case so that I can use my headphones.
I got a tripod for my birthday, just a mini one, and I haven't taken my phone out of it. I'm like walking around like a YouTuber now. Like, it's so good though. I just had it on the side yesterday while I was cooking, talking to one of my friends. I was like, this is amazing.
So do you know when you've got the little headphone thing at the bottom and you
Yeah.
can't just stand it up?
Yeah.
That's what I'm dealing with.
I try and MacGyver it in a glass sometimes. It never works.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. I can't believe the weather.
I know, it's so nice.
I couldn't find my cats this morning and I'm like, what the hell? And I look and they're just laying in the gym outside, like sunbathing. And I'm like, at least someone's used it today.
That's amazing. Our dog hates it because he just gets too hot.
Yeah.
So he just walks around the house panting.
Mm. Are you training today?
Yeah, I'm doing legs. Are you?
Yeah, I'm doing legs as well. What's wrong with us?
I don't know.
I feel I don't know, super motivated to do it. I've had a good sleep. I've just wolfed down my first meal. So I'm like, I reckon it's going to be good. And get out for a nice walk while the weather's nice.
To be honest, I like training when it's like warmer and sunny a lot better because it means like I can open the garage and have a bit of daylight. So much nicer.
I think you just feel more motivated and when the weather's good, right? When it's shit, you're like, I've found it really difficult the last week to motivate myself to do anything, to be honest, that involves going outside because the weather's been rubbish, you know? Yeah. It does make a difference. How have you found training at home during the lockdown?
At first, it took a while to sort of get into it because obviously it was just a brand new training stimulus and I had really minimal equipment to start with. I literally had like one 16-kilogram kettlebell and some resistance bands.
Mate, you're rich if you've got a 16-kilo kettlebell.
I know. I could sell that for a lot of money.
Yeah. I scour the internet for one every day, like between 14 and 20. And I'm like, no, okay. I don't want to spend £100 on a kettlebell.
I know. The thing is with the kettlebell as well, it's not, I mean, it is diverse, but at the same time, it's not because if you've got something, it depends what load you've got, but like if you've got a heavier kettlebell, you can only really use it for lower body. If you've got a lighter kettlebell, you can only really use it for upper body. So it's not that diverse, even though if you had a range of kettlebells, it would be. So at the start, it did take me a while to get into it. And of course, I just missed training heavy like we always do. But after a few weeks, I found that I did start to settle into it. And I just accepted that it's a case of we're just making the most of what we've got, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I found it, that very first burst of like lockdown, right? Training at home. And then everyone was putting up their like really creative workouts with their bands and like, really making interesting, like great adaptations. And I was like, yeah, this is great. And after a few sessions, I was like, this is shit. Because I love to lift heavy, my body responds better. I can't stand high volume work, and obviously when you don't have that much weight you have to do high volume and hate it. And I ended up not training for a few weeks and just feeling like shit, not just I didn't care about the way I looked but the way I felt, and I was sluggish and I just felt when your body needs to train, it's got all this stored up energy, and it's like I even considered going for a run. That's when things are bad, because I did order my weights and bar. I actually ordered it the weekend of the lockdown was announced. It took a month to come.
Yeah.
So it was just like, I'll train when it comes. I'll train when it comes. Then when it came, I was already stuck in a rut, like mentally. And I was just like, I don't want to train. I can't. And stupidly, I took myself off of my program. I stopped checking in with my coach and was just like, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. And then it's taken a comeback of, I checked in yesterday for the first time in a month and I was just like, I've got everything now. I've got no excuse. I'm only standing in my own way now, like I have to get up and do it. And I've just learned, I usually train in the evening after work. I can't do that at home because I just won't train. So really have put a schedule together where I train mid-morning now. I will from next week. just to make it easier for myself, and just said to my boss, I'm going to take my lunch break early. I'm going to take a longer lunch break because I like to train for about 1.5, 2 hours. Just take my time, fuck around. And then, I think putting the schedule together and holding myself to it, the discipline that will take, I will feel just better generally, the rest of the day, because I've been productive and I've ticked off my boxes and I'm still working towards my goal, instead of recently been like, you're shit, like, why aren't you doing this? Like, you're better than this, but still not being able to do it. There was just some block there that I had to get sick of my own bullshit kind of thing, So I have been doing some workouts, but I certainly haven't been on it like
I honestly think in my situation it helped that I was in a deficit, that I was in prep, because I knew if I didn't train I would lose muscle tissue. And like, you're the same, we both had quite long off seasons, and we both worked really hard to like build muscle from being fairly small. Like, I'm similar in that, like, my body doesn't naturally want to hold on to muscle tissue. I have to fight to maintain it. So
I hear you, girl.
I knew, like, if I didn't train I would lose muscle, and I wasn't willing to risk that. So that in itself made me train, if that makes sense.
Have you really struggled? Like, are there some sessions, like some days where you wake up and you're just like, I really don't want to, but you do?
Yeah, of course, definitely.
How do you motivate yourself out of that will it really matter if I miss it kind of mentality?
I think honestly, like, it's just, for me now, it's so habitual to just go through my daily routine and go through the motions. And actually my routine hasn't changed too much since we went into quarantine, because I already worked at home. So I didn't have that same transition to get used to that a lot of people did. So that kind of worked in my favour slightly, because I was still training at the same time. My work schedule was the same. But I still have those days where I wake up and I'm like, I just do not want to train in my garage today.
I was talking to my boyfriend about it. He did a post a couple of days ago saying the gym isn't about having the equipment that you want to use. It's the environment. It's seeing people smashing their own goals, like seeing dedicated, driven people, the atmosphere, like, it's the environment itself that we miss. Like, every Saturday I go to King's Gym. It's full of competitors at a weekend, because it's just such a good atmosphere, and it's so social at the same time. And that is my social life, because if I'm on prep, going to the gym, seeing 10 of my friends, coming home exhausted, enough socializing for the weekend, and it's like I can still maintain a social life, but in that environment. So it's not necessarily about the kit that they've got that I go there. It's the people that I'm exposed to, and watching really inspiring people train, like some of your idols are there, and you're just watching them smash it. And no matter what mood I go to that gym, I have the best session ever, because there's people around me buoying me on. And then in my back garden, it's just my cats walking under my deadlift, and do you know what I mean, really distracting me. Or my neighbours are like smoking weed in the garden and I'm trying to do squats, or having a barbecue. That's the worst.
When you smell the barbecue and you're just like, why am I training?
Honestly, so I don't eat pork, right, but my neighbour cooks bacon every day, and the smell is torture because it smells amazing. And he obviously gets the really fatty bacon as well that would taste amazing. And I just smell it every day, like, oh Lord. So I'm really lucky I'm not dieting at the moment because it's torture. I do think the only reason that I actually stopped dieting, because obviously when we went into quarantine, I was halfway through a prep for Worlds. But the thing is, I only want to compete at Worlds. So I think that for me and my coach, it was a decision that we've taken, that even if there are shows this year, they'll be at the end of the year. And we just don't think Worlds will be one of them, because a lot of countries will still have travel restrictions. And a lot of people will be wary. So I've just gone back to, I went to maintenance for a little while, and then we've just decided we're just wasting a little bit of time, because I still need to grow. When we dieted down, we realised that my glutes have not grown because of my injury. So everything else is bigger apart from my bum. So that's our kind of, I lean up really quickly, right? So even if we got to the end of this lockdown and I've done 3 months of growing, I can probably lean up. I'll do a prep in 6 weeks, it will be a grinder, but
Yeah.
I'm quite good at doing those shorter preps rather than the longer ones.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been, because I was so structured before, and I was, you know, smashing it, and I was hitting my macros, and then to come into this kind of uncertain, don't know what's happening, you haven't got kit to train. I hate the bands. Oh my God. And my flat is so small. And it was just like, I don't think that I can do this. I had to have a chat with her, and I could have, you can't do something you hate, right? Because you never put your heart into it. So I was just half-assing these bands workouts. And then it was like, when I started to get my kit and I started to realize that I can squat again or I can deadlift again, it just brought back this surge of love for training. It's not even about competing now. It's like, oh, finally, I feel like myself again.
Yeah.
But I've had to just remind myself to get back into training of my why. Like, why am I training?
Yeah.
It is obviously in the long term, I want to compete, I want to be world champion, so I have to put the work in now. But it's not just that, you know, I feel better when I train, I look better, I sleep better, I can eat more food, the best bit.
Yeah.
So I would say for me, motivating myself when I don't want to do it, it's just like, why do you need to do this? Yeah. It's like, yeah, okay, it's worth it. Get your ass out of bed.
As well, like the whole motivation thing, for me, it just comes down to discipline, because I know what I need to do in order to be healthier, in order to reach my goals, in order to feel better in myself. And I know that training does that for me, and that actually, you know, packing it all in right now would not do me any favors. So it just, for me, it more comes back to like discipline than motivation, I think. And now we have better kit, I am really enjoying it. But with shows, you know, it's very uncertain. Like I think it's getting less realistic that there's going to be shows at the end of this season now, from what we're hearing. But at the end of the day, like I am enjoying prep, so I'm just going to continue for now, and then I will stop if there aren't shows towards the end of the year. I'll stop before it starts to get you know, when you get into the weeks where it becomes a bit of a grind, and it really starts to take a toll on your health and the way that you feel. I'll stop before I get to that part and just reverse back into an off season, really.
I just think it's easier right now to diet, but it's also harder. Because you just can't go out. Like for me, for example, in those last weeks when I'm really hungry, because you have to go low for the last 4 weeks, I just go for a walk. And it's like a double-edged thing. Like I get more steps in, so I'm burning more calories, but I'm also getting away from the food, you know. And I do take that time to catch up with my friends on WhatsApp or Instagram or whatever, and walk around the park. You're not really allowed to do that anymore. I think for people that live more rural, it's not as bad. But in London, we've got police in all the parks, like, you know, moving you along. You can't even sit down. I went to the marshes yesterday, and there were just people really socially distanced, actually, sitting in this field, and there was a warden just walking around saying, you need to move.
Really?
Like, so I think particularly because we're in London and there's just such a high concentration of people, it's quite difficult to go out and be socially distanced if you even just want to get your steps in. So for me, when I was still prepping at the start of the lockdown, it was like, can I realistically keep my energy expenditure where it needs to be to keep my food higher? My body will only maintain the muscle with higher food. It does not like going low calorie. I mean, who does though, right? So we really had to make a plan and be really clever about, okay, there's scenario A, scenario B, scenario C. And what it really came down to is, I will put the work into diet when I need to. We're confident that I can do it. We know my body well enough. So it was like, go back into off season, but then you lose your discipline a little bit because you're so hitting everything in prep. And it shouldn't be like that, but it's not as bad to miss a session or to eat something that is way more calorific than your coach set you. That's my thing.
The thing is, when you're in the improvement season, like a few extra calories is not going to hold you back with achieving the goal of hypertrophy. So you've always got that in the back of your head. And you're right in saying it is so much easier to maintain structure when you've got that end goal of prep. Like, you know, you're going to be stepping on stage in front of hundreds of people, and you've had this goal in your head for months. So of course you're going to be disciplined during a contest prep scenario, and it has been easier to sort of maintain that, I think, than to take a step back from prep in a way. And for me as well, when we went into lockdown, I think I was like 5 weeks into prep. So I was at the point where I hadn't lost significant body fat yet, like you had. And at the same time, I wasn't like close to stage lean, so I wasn't at a dangerous point. So for me, there was actually no downside to continuing that fat loss phase, whatever the end product of that would be, whether it be a show or whether it be actually just reversing back into an improvement season, because I'd already reached like the peak of my improvement season. I didn't want to gain any more body fat. So for me, it was pointless going back, whereas you'd lost a decent amount of body fat by then. Like you were at a good point in prep.
I was at a really funny point because my body was in between. I think it was at the stage where it's about to get freaky, you know, so I'd lost enough body fat that probably like photo shoot lean. And then to go the next step is to get really, really lean. And that is when my immune system starts to go down a bit. And I've also got asthma, so I was a little bit like higher risk. And we just decided that it's in the best interest for me to just maintain. So I'm actually only put on a tiny little bit of, I'm just look softer. I'm actually way less than I did. Probably I just don't have any glycogen, right? I've gone quite flat because I haven't been training. But yeah, I've seen a lot of backlash on the internet for people that are still continuing to prep, and people are saying they're deluded or why are they compromising their immune system. But I think that a lot of those people don't realize your immune system, it's fine for most of the prep, right? It's only that last bit that you start to get really run down.
Exactly.
And nobody's going that far in quarantine. They're, as you said, getting to a certain point and then they're either maintaining or they're going back eating up again.
And it would be silly to like try and maintain stage lean. That's a different story. But like just carrying on fat loss, actually, you're probably going to be eating more micronutrient dense foods because they're higher in volume, and
you'll be sleeping more as well, right? Because you've got more opportunity to have good structure, good sleep health, as you said, good diet. I think that the people that, when this started, at what point of the season it is, was good because a lot of people had only just started dieting. It would be different if this lockdown had happened midway through the summer. Most of us would have been dieting for probably 10 weeks already, you know, and been starting to get really immune compromised. But yeah, I just let people do their thing, right?
Exactly.
We've all got coaches, and our coaches all have our health in their best interests, I'm sure. If you don't, then you don't have the right coach, right? But how have you dealt with your clients that their kind of motivation, because I know not all of them are competitors, so it's like lifestyle that don't have that goal to get on stage. Like, how have you helped them to maintain like momentum and motivation?
So with the competitors, obviously they already have a bit more discipline, because they, like we were discussing earlier, when you have that end goal of stepping on stage, you know exactly what you need to do to get there, and you just do it. You do what you need to do to get there, no matter how hard it is. Like, you do it, and there's no real question. So the competitors that I'm coaching, I've just seen Zena actually. Come on, hey Zena. She is one of my competitors, and she knows what she needs to do. There's still a chance that she may step on stage at the end of this season, so she still has to give 100% every single training session. She still has to hit her macros to the gram, and she knows that. And the general population clients that I'm coaching, one thing I have done is reminded them that the reason they train is not just to maintain the muscle tissue that they've got. They also train for their mental and physical health. And they also train because they enjoy it. And if they remind themselves of that, it just gives their training more purpose, and they're therefore more likely to actually get that training done. So part of what I've done is just reminded them of their purpose and why they actually train, so that they have that motivation there. And also obviously reprogrammed everyone's training so that they had exactly what they needed to do with the equipment that they've got available. They've still got structure. They can still track their training, so they don't really feel like they've lost that structure element of it, and that's helped massively. And again, when it comes to nutrition, it's just reminding them that they don't just like eat certain foods to control their body composition. They also do it for their mental and physical health, and that's so important during this period of time where we're all in quarantine.
Yeah, I think the mental health point is really a big thing as well. Because for me, I'll always feel better when I've achieved something, you know, and I also feel better because you've got your endorphins, you're all pumped up, you look great, and yeah, you know you've done what you're meant to have done that day, kind of thing, or more sometimes, right? Because you can have some really smashed sessions, but when I wasn't training and when I was just laying around all listless, I just felt crap about myself because I knew I should be doing these things. I had a number of obligations, like not just training, but work as well, even housework, you know, we're in the house all the time. Why is it so messy? I live on my own.
Yeah.
Like, who made this mess? So it's just constant. And then I was just like, oh, fuck this. I just can't be arsed. And I had a couple of days of wallowing. And then I just thought, you need to snap out of this, girl. Like, you're so much better. You're going to be so much happier. Why are you enabling yourself to be a misery guts? And yeah, just put together. I think you're right. It was the structure. I needed a routine. I wrote one out. It's Monday to Friday routine. And I give myself some slack at the weekends to just do whatever I want when I feel like it. Make sure that I'm eating nutritious food because I don't really need to control my calories at the moment. But I want to feel good and I want to be fueled, you know.
Yeah.
It's very easy to fall back into after a dieting phase. I can eat whatever I want and then not really pay attention to what you're eating and realize you feel gross, but you don't realize why. And it's like you've just gone from however many weeks of eating the best quality food around, really hitting your nutrition, and then it's Easter. So you start eating an Easter egg every day and that's your carbs, you know, like because you still want to like look good, and it's like, well, they're not going to fuel you, not just physically but mentally. I think that's been my toughest thing, is just staying on top of my mental health while I'm living alone, especially. But I know a lot of people, they still really struggling living with other people, right? Being with someone else 24/7 is really difficult. You know, even no matter how much love you have for each other, it is really difficult. And I've just used exercise as your downtime, your me time. You know, you can just go into your garage, for example, and get away from AJ for 2 hours. But you know what I mean? And give yourself both a break, because in your daily life you would not be under each other's feet 24/7.
I think for me and AJ, we've been lucky in that, like I said before, we already worked at home, so like we're already used to being in the house together all day. But we work very separately, so I have my office and AJ has his office, and we don't really actually see each other that much through the day unless we are making meals and passing in the kitchen, or like we actively decide to train together. So or we usually watch an episode of something in the evening before we go to bed. So like we don't really see each other that much through the day, and we already have those boundaries, and we already have that set up so that we are separate and we're not just on top of each other 24/7, which I can see being a massive problem for people that don't already have that routine where both them and their other half are training at home, living and working at home, or whatever the situation may be, whether it's their other half or like their brother and sister or the parents or whatever it is.
I think a lot of people have gone home, you know, especially in London, to get away. So they don't even usually live with these people. So it's really an adjustment, you know. And I think that taking the hour out to get your steps in, get a clear head, do your own training, just take a break, can be really, really good. Just not, mental health and physically, and for the other people around you as well. I know that my neighbours just sit in the garden smoking all day, thinking, "What is she doing?" The first time I put the squat rack up, and the first time I squatted, they can probably just see my head going up and down above the fence. They can't see the whole thing.
Funny.
And I heard them say, "Bloody hell, look at that!" And the other guy was like, "Good on her." I wasn't squatting a lot, you know, like I was just squatting. It was, it was like, now I've started to up the weights, and I'm a noisy lifter. So if I've got my headphones in, especially, I can't even hear myself. And there's me grunting away doing deadlifts. And I'm thinking, I'm alienating everyone around me now.
Yeah, we're the same, to be honest. And where we live, like our garden, we have 2 gardens next to us, and they can see into our garden. So they probably think, what the hell is she doing? And especially when AJ's deadlifting, like he uses a lot of weight. So obviously it makes a lot of noise when it hits the ground. So yeah, they probably think we are very weird. And there's always people like walking past the front as well, and they can see down the drive into the garage. So I am fully like on show when I'm training.
I think that we definitely just have to not give a shit, right? Otherwise we just won't get it. So when I was in the gym for the first few years that I trained, I really thought everyone was looking at me, and I'd get really nervous and, you know, maybe not push myself as hard or not try something new because I didn't want to look stupid. I can remember one coach gave me a floor press, but I could only do it in a squat rack. And we only have 4 squat racks in the gym, and it's busy central London gym. And I was crying. I was like, please don't make me lay on the floor in a squat rack. Like, everyone's going to hate me. Everyone's going to be like, and it was so stupid. Now I'm literally just going to go and lay on the floor in the squat rack if it's on my program or if I need to do it. I really stopped caring because I noticed no one actually cares what you're doing.
Yeah.
As long as the only time they're going to look at you is when they want to use your bench or use your dumbbells or, you know, use the machine you're on. And that's the only time that they care what you're doing. Yeah. So yeah, really not caring, especially being in such a built up area, just have to get on with it, right? And you never know, you might inspire them to go and do something a bit more physical because they're like, oh, do you know what? I should try that.
Exactly. I was going to say, actually, a lot of the reason people, if anyone is ever looking at you in the gym, is often because they're actually like either looking at you in admiration or trying to get ideas for themselves because they're not really sure what they're doing themselves. So, you know, never worry about anyone else kind of looking at you in the gym or anything like that. I mean, it's obviously easier for us to say that now. We've been training for a while. I know it's harder when you first get into training, but very rarely anyone ever is looking at you to criticize you.
Yeah, I think it is definitely a case of just stay in your own lane. And I think being at home as well, it's really important to film yourself training as well, just so you can have a look back at your form. I didn't realize that. So the 3 different squats, high bar, low bar, and front. I've got a best front squat, you know, it just works well with my physiology. But when I have a back squat, which is what most people will program, I've got such a butt wing. And, you know, I'm obviously not going to fix it in one session. I need to work on my mobility. But it doesn't feel like it. It feels like I'm doing it properly. So if I hadn't filmed myself just for the purpose of seeing my form, I wouldn't know. And I think that this is a perfect time for people to go back to basics now and relearn some movement patterns. You know, I certainly didn't realize that my squat was, it's not bad, but it's not optimal either. And it could lead to injury further down the line. So literally now we've just decided my squats are going to be front squats because they move great. And then during this time, I can take the time to learn on the basics again. You know, like I've changed a lot of my form. I've sent videos to friends that are coaches or have more know-how than me and just said, do you mind giving me some constructive feedback? You know, my coach obviously is there to do it as well. And I think it is a great time to learn, to go back to basics, take your ego out of it. Most of us don't have the same amount of weight that we would have in the gym available. So you do have to be bang on the form, the tempo, you know, everything. Oh God, my cat's trying to get on my lap. Like, chill out. But yeah, it's just a great time. I have told myself I'm going to do yoga every day and haven't done one. So tonight I'm going to do some yoga, and it's unrealistic for me to do it every day. That's what I've realized. I set myself a goal that's not really going to work. It's not sustainable. So I've decided I'm just going to do it 3 times a week. And it's just like, revise your goal. You've still got the same end result, but it's just more sustainable and fits into my lifestyle better.
And also with the training thing as well, like it's such a good opportunity to learn how to create a good mind muscle connection as well, which a lot of these skills which we've now got the opportunity to learn with minimal equipment or less load can be cross transferred over to gym based training when we get back into the gym, and that can result in so much more progress than you were making before. So like it's such a good opportunity in my opinion to like work on those things and then use what you've learned, use those skills when we get back into gym-based training.
It's funny because Jodie and I were talking about hip thrusts yesterday, and I was saying that I get such a better mind muscle connection on 40 kilos, 50 kilos than on 100 plus, which everyone's trying to move as much weight as possible, but I just don't feel the connection there on that amount of weight. I can push it, but it's not doing what I really need it to do. And the next day after I've done lower weight, same amount of reps, but really focusing on the connection, I can hardly walk. You know, like, and I think that this is a great time now because we do have less load. Some people are thinking, well, what's the point in doing it with 40 kilos? And it's like, there's so much you can do to assist yourself with bands as well and tempo. Yeah, so I've really looked for variations, and I've really enjoyed watching people put their training videos up on Instagram that give me great ideas. Even something so silly as walking lunges. I usually do it with a fixed bar in the gym, and obviously I've got 7-foot barbells, so there's no way I'm gonna be able to do that. I hate holding dumbbells. And then yesterday I just saw someone doing it with the tri-grip plates, you know, because you can just hold the plates. And I was like, that's a brilliant idea, because they're actually quite small. They're not like bumpers, you know, so you can carry a heavier weight and it's not that big. And I can just do it up and down the street. That's all I'm like, what time should I do those? Probably about 10 o'clock at night when no one's watching. But it's like, just watching someone else do that just gave me such great ideas. Most of the training that I've been able to do at home is because I'm copying something I saw on Instagram, because I'm just not that creative myself.
Yeah. I think it's been great to see some of the ideas people have come up with, like, so good. And it's really nice to see people offering that content as well, and like pulling together and giving each other ideas, and being creative. It's just so good to see. It's really nice.
There's just been so much free content. I do honestly think that things are not going to go quite back to normal ever again when it comes to fitness, because we're all learning so much at the moment. And sometimes you might not, say, for example, go back to an in-person PT because online coaching has proven to be really good for you. Or vice versa. You might have realised during this period that online coaching doesn't work for you and you need to have in-person. But yeah, I think that, well, we just don't know when the gyms are going to be open, right? So there's no point in thinking about it now.
We might find out a little bit more tomorrow, but I am not optimistic that it's going to be too soon. Put it that way.
My friend and I were talking yesterday about all he hopes is that small groups can train outside together and then can start doing more of a community kind of exercise thing. So you just don't feel on your own. You've got the obligation to go because you're going to let down 3 other people, for example, and you'll just keep people honest because they won't miss a session. I'm terrible for it. If I don't train when I feel like training, I probably will miss it that day. It's my coach's biggest bugbear. All she ever says to me about off season is, if you don't do the work now, you're not going to like what you look like on stage. And I'm like, I know. I know. But that's why I've changed my structure around. I just said to my boss, look, I need a couple of hours in the morning. I'll make it up during the day. And he's like, as long as you do your work, I really don't care. You know, so it will work better for me. And then hopefully I'll make more progress.
And it's really nice that, like, your boss has been allowing of that as well, because in reality, you know, obviously I'm self-employed, so I can organise my own day. But as long as you're getting the work done that you need to, does it really matter what time of day you do it? And actually, is that work going to be better quality if you do it when you're most productive? Probably. So it's really nice that, like, some employers are being quite flexible in that respect as well.
I think that most employers are very mindful now of their staff's mental health, you know, being at home. A lot of people are struggling, even if they're in better conditions, you know, like I'm in this tiny little flat on my own. So it has a different set of pressures than people that live in a big house with multiple people, but they're still struggling, you know. We all have our own triggers. And my boss, certainly, he's not the most patient person, but he just said to me, if you tell me how you feel, I can make allowances, you know. So, for example, instead of me just disappearing between 11 and 1 and him not knowing where I am, he now knows, look, that's when I need to train, like, because otherwise I won't train. He's been really good, actually. He said to me yesterday, like, I know it must be difficult for you having to not compete this year, because that is my real, like, I don't think I'm going to compete this year now. I don't want to do just any show. I want it to be worlds, because that's my next goal. So the benefit is I've got more time to make the improvements. You know, we're very lucky that I got to a level of body fat percentage that really showed what I had underneath. We really have seen what my weaknesses are. So now it's down to me to put in the work that next time I diet, they're not going to be weaknesses anymore, you know.
And in regards to shows as well, like, I was just talking to actually Meg about this, Meg Sylvester, and like, obviously I know you're the same. I don't just compete for the sake of it. So I don't just want to compete if there's going to be like 5 people there, if there's going to be social distancing at the show, if my friends and family can't come and watch me, if I can't do the shows that I want to do and have a solid season. Like, I don't just want to compete in one show where there's going to be 5 people on stage and the competition is not going to be high. Like, I would rather compete in a higher standard competition and feel like that feeling of accomplishment if I do achieve my goals, as opposed to just sort of competing for the sake of it. Like, it's not what I do. Do you know what I mean? And I also don't want to compete if I don't feel like my physique is at its best from training at home either.
This is the thing that I was saying to Jodie yesterday, actually. I was saying, would you go to a show and compete if you were 2 meters away from the person next to you? So you can't actually really, there's no comparison if you're that far apart. If there's no atmosphere, because say, for example, they were previously saying 50 attendees and some of them, I mean, 10 of them are judges, right? And you're right, your family's not there. Like, for me, a massive part of being on stage is hearing my friends shouting for me, you know, like Max and Phoebe come and Max literally is like my stage posing coach, and he'll be like, move your hair, like get your lats out, kind of thing. I know it's for me, but it makes me smile as well, which affects my stage presence. You know, like, you hear your name and you're the cheeky things that they're shouting out, and it buoys you up on stage. And stage presence is so much of your placing as well, you know.
And show day is supposed to be like a celebration, and I don't want it to be all about social distancing and trying to not contract the coronavirus. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
And it's also not just about winning first place or your pro card, right? It is about being competitive and feeling like you've earned it, you know, rather than just rocking up and there's 2 people in your category, so you're first and second, and it's like, okay, that's great, I came first, but you know, I want it to be difficult. I want it to be like at finals where there were like 27 amazing physiques, kind of thing. No,
I'm the same.
Have you had to take any of your clients out of prep, or are they all kind of maintaining generally?
I had a figure client who was about 6 weeks out when we went into lockdown, so she transitioned out. She's actually done really well, and she's handled post-show like exceptionally. So she's in a really good position now. She's still in good condition. She's sort of at that halfway point in prep where we could get back into a prep if shows did pick up, or we can just carry on the improvement season. And I actually have, if this is allowed to go ahead, I have a photo shoot planned for my clients in August. So that's kind of served as a goal for some of them as well, which is nice because it's sort of kept something to aim for. And giving them a little bit of structure, which is nice.
I think that is actually a great point, especially for the first timers that have had to pull out, because this is so alien to them and they've never dealt with post-show. And some of them are probably rebounding quite a lot because, come on, we have all rebounded after our first show, right? So it must be hard for them to like have a goal and to feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. But having a photo shoot booked is, I think, great, because you don't have to be as lean. You don't want to look as lean, do you? But you've still got something to work towards, and it is still aesthetic based, which will keep you honest on your diet for sure. I might actually do some photo shoots this year. I never do them. I feel like the just gawky little deer in the headlights, like, what do I do? But
I'm not the most, like, I don't naturally pose and things. I have to be instructed, like someone has to say to me, you know, do this, do that, and I'll take a photo.
I can do my stage poses, and they're like, you've got so many pictures of you in your stage poses, like, be sexy, and I'm like, they're like, that's not sexy. I remember, so I've got one friend and she's a photographer, and she's the only professional pictures I've got taken are from her, and she told me to like pout. It was ridiculous. It was like that Chandler from Friends getting his engagement pictures done. I cannot pout. I am not that girl. And she was so frustrated. She just photoshopped the pout in. That's
amazing.
It was just like, just make it bigger in the post edit. She was like,
Yeah.
I was like, are you going to make my bum bigger? And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah.
That's so like me though. Like I just don't naturally. I can obviously pose for competing now. I've learned how to do that, but being like sexy doesn't come naturally to me, especially in front of a camera. Like, yeah.
This is the perfect time for people to practice photo shoot posing though, isn't it? Just set your camera up at home. You know, you have your laptop open. There's so many, you can just look on other people's Instagram poses for inspiration. Do it in front of your mirror and really become comfortable. Because the reason we're comfortable with our stage poses is practice.
Yeah.
You know, before, can you remember your first show? I was like,
oh my God. My hamstrings were like shaking when I was on stage.
Oh, see, I still have, but I had no quads. So I had to flex my quads the entire time I was on stage. This was actually my first PCA show and I won. And so I was invited back for the overall. But then I was invited back for the pro show. And by the pro show, I couldn't even feel my legs. I couldn't squeeze my quads anymore. So I was just literally just standing there like a piece of spaghetti thinking, I hate this. And all my friends that watched it online said you looked so uncomfortable in the pro show. And I was like, yeah, I had to flex everything. That's actually, we were talking to Natalie about it the other day, how IFBB posing is so different. You don't actually have to flex. If you've trained to compete in PCA, you're generally quite muscular. So it's like, can just be more graceful and fluid doing the IFBB poses.
Yeah. And I'm similar to you in that, like, I do not naturally have quads. So when I'm posing for like PCA, I'm like really trying.
Yeah, I think it is a great time for people to practice their posing.
Yeah.
And get some nice pictures. You don't have to have a photographer taking your pictures now. You can get quite creative at home and to create some content for your social media and just to feel more comfortable in front of the camera for when you do have your photo shoots. Because I am so awkward, honestly. I went on a photo shoot when I was like much younger, in my early 20s, and the guy was like, okay, do your thing. And I was like, what's my thing? And it was like, you know, where the girls all just move naturally. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Whereas now, if I had a photo shoot coming up, if I had the time, I would dedicate it to practicing some of the poses I've seen on other people's photo shoots to just see if it works on me.
I think I would as well, to be honest, because photo shoots usually have quite a short space of time as well to like get your pictures, so you want to be able to actually just sort of get into something as opposed to mess around whilst you're there.
Have you had anybody that's struggling with, you know, going into this stage of, it's kind of maintenance at the moment, isn't it, rather than progressing your physique? Most people are just trying to hold on to their physique now.
Yeah, I think people have found it quite difficult, but I think a really important thing to do is actually set yourself up with realistic expectations. I actually did a post on this the other day, but it's so important because we haven't got optimal conditions to progress right now. So you can't expect yourself to be progressing to like your true potential, which you would be doing if you were doing gym-based training.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not realistic. So you have to have a word with yourself and say, you know, right, okay, the goal is actually maintenance right now, or to progress very slowly with hypertrophy. I'm not going to see progress at the same rate as if I was training in the gym with hypertrophy, because that's just not realistic. My equipment isn't optimal, my conditions aren't optimal for that to happen. And if you're realistic with yourself, you're so much less likely to be disappointed with yourself.
I think that there's a big realization for people to make that how long it took us to build the muscle, it actually doesn't take that much to hold on to it for a short period of time. But also for me, especially, this time is a really good time for my existing muscle to mature, because my upper body's getting quite mature, actually. If I don't train it, it just stays the same. But my legs are still quite new tissue. And if I don't keep stimulating it and feeding it, it just drop off the face of the earth, as we know from my glutes. So now I'm just giving some time to try and keep hold of it, but to really let it set in, you know, and to mature. And I think people don't realize that how different you can look once your muscle's more mature and you look denser, you look bigger than you are. I wouldn't say I've grown massively in my off season, but it's much denser. So I look completely different at this weight than I did at this weight last time, you know, and I look like I've done a lot more, when in reality it's just matured. So I think that the lockdown is a great time to just let that process happen.
Yeah. And like you said, you know, it takes a lot less to maintain the muscle tissue that you have than it does to build muscle. So if you do something and you work with what you've got, you will maintain what you have worked so hard to build. You will. But if you don't do anything, you will regress. So actually, you know, set yourself up with realistic expectations, but realize that you can maintain what you've got. There's no reason why you can't. And you can also reap the health benefits from training, and you can learn how to create a good mind muscle connection. You can work on your form, your technique. There's so much you can do. So it really helps to focus on that as opposed to beat yourself up about what you might not be able to do.
I really have taken this time to focus on my health. You know, keep my supplementation up. So I only usually supplement in prep because I feel like I'm not getting enough micronutrients usually. I don't eat much vegetables and just everything that I need. But I've continued my supplementation now. I'd call this off season. I mean, I'm not really doing anything, but I feel so much better and I'm sleeping better. I'm less stressed. My anxiety is not as high. The reason I have been stressed or anything is really nothing to do with what it would usually be. It's just that I'm on my own for so long. But yeah, I just feel so much better health wise, and really trying to focus on some quality sleep is changing everything, you know, like even just my emotional well-being. But what I have done and I've continued to do is intermittent fast while I'm at home, because I just feel so much better when I'm not bloated. And that is what intermittent fasting gives me. Is I get a lot of questions about it because they think it's hard in the off season to do it when you've got quite a high calorie target.
Yeah.
But I'm a pig, so I like to have big meals. You know, I'm a volume eater, so it still works really well for me. And I get to have a big meal before bed, which is my favorite.
Yeah, I actually don't eat until 10 a.m, which probably isn't as late as you do, I don't think, but I like to just have a coffee and get on with work, and then eat when I'm hungry, which is usually around 10.
Yeah, see, I don't eat until like 11, half 11, but I get up probably a bit later than you. But yeah, it just suits me, and it's not anything to do with fat loss. Honestly, I just feel better doing it. I think because it just gives my digestive system a break.
And that's one of the things, some people get confused and they're like, oh, is it sort of like some kind of magic way of losing body fat? And no, it's not. No. Like, as long as calories are equated, it's not going to have a difference, but it just works for some people. Like it gives you more food later in the day, so you might not be as hungry. Like you said, it helps with some people and their digestion. So there are benefits of it, but it's not that it's a magic tool for fat loss.
I find it really good when I'm dieting for shows, because obviously you have much less calories, so you can just have bigger meals, you feel fuller. But there does come a point in my prep where I have to go back to eating breakfast because I'm not got enough energy. So I will have say I had meal 1 at 11 and meal 2 at 12:30. I wouldn't have any energy until probably 1:30, 2. I was sometimes not getting any kind of, I wouldn't feel like alive until like 3 or 4, but I worked 10 till 6. So it just became, it didn't work for my lifestyle at that time because I just didn't have enough fuel. So then I had to go back to eating as soon as I wake up and just having longer space between meals, which I find quite mentally difficult. But you do just have to adapt to what's going to be sustainable, don't you? And it's going to work.
And when I actually, the last time I prepped, I was working as a PT. So then I was getting up at literally 4:45 in the morning, and I would then like travel into work and start working really early. So at that moment in time, I used to have to eat really early in the morning because otherwise I just wouldn't feel awake for my clients. But things seem to have changed, and like now I feel really good just having a coffee. But like it's just to say that just because you're doing one thing now doesn't mean that a different approach might not work for you in the future. And it's okay if you change your approach.
I think that even like what I eat has changed over the years. Every time I prep, it's like it resets my taste buds a little bit more and a little bit more. And like, I don't have a sweet tooth anymore, which in my first prep, I could not stop looking at cakes and biscuits. It was insane. I'd be scrolling on my phone at like 1 o'clock in the morning, just looking at food. And my ex-boyfriend was like, what is wrong with you? Whereas now I don't even want to eat like that a lot of the time. Don't get me wrong. If it's there, I'll eat it, you know, but I don't ever crave sweet stuff. And I do think it is literally just over the years, I'm conditioning myself really to prefer the food that we eat generally. I used to hate oats, and now I eat oats every single day and I love them. But it's like, it's right. What is happening right now does not mean that it could change in the future. You just have to be patient and keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
What would be your advice for people once the gyms do reopen? And because everyone's going to just go in and try and smash their old weights from their logbook, you know?
Yeah.
And
again, it comes back to being realistic with yourself. Like, you're not going to be able to go into the gym and lift the weights that you were PBing on before straight away if you haven't had decent kit at home. For example, if you've had like a barbell and cables and shit at home, you'd probably be fine. But if you've had minimal kit and you've not been training in that same way, you're going to have to ease yourself back in, because one, you won't be able to lift the same weights that you were PBing on before, and two, you will absolutely drive yourself into the ground if you try and train in the same way and you don't ease yourself back in, because it's a novel stimulus. So you're going to be so sore, you probably won't be able to recover properly. It would be smarter to start off with slightly lower volume and just leaving a couple of reps in reserve, like your first few sessions back, and just easing your intensity back up to where it was, gradually working your loads back up, rather than going in like a bull in a china shop. That's coming from somebody who would probably go in like a bull in a china shop.
Yeah, me too.
Like an idiot.
Well, I think that we've both invested in some stuff for home, haven't we? Because for me personally, I will use it afterwards. You know, it's not like it's all just going to sit and not get used. I haven't gone crazy with what I've bought. I've bought the things that I really deem necessary to help me progress. It's a little bit more, I mean, I got a hyperextension for goodness sake, but I need it because I'm rehabbing my hips. And that's like one of the key exercises that really helps me to get my hips back. I know that I had a little bit of backlash from people on the internet about having kit and spending so much. And it's like, to me, it's an investment. I don't just have extra money just lying around. You know, I have had to make sacrifices elsewhere. But it's worth it for me. And I would say, if you can get a barbell and a few plates, you don't need to have 100 kilos at home, you know. I think you can do a lot of work with 40 kilos, including the bar, you know. Yeah. I think that it would be clever for people, because the gyms are not going to open until we expect the Irish plan to come back is probably what we will roughly model ours on, and theirs not opening gyms until the end of August.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've seen it, but obviously this is not official, but in a few newspapers they've released like a rough plan, and it says gyms around October. So me and AJ were saying that
can you imagine?
Necessarily, it doesn't seem unrealistic, because we're ahead of everywhere else in terms of like the death rate and stuff, and we're not dealing with it very well. So, you know, it does kind of make sense. And for that reason, you know, if you love training, if training is really important for your mental and physical health, and you wish to invest in kit, I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think it's a productive thing to do. Like, each to their own, everyone chooses where they spend their money, but everyone works really hard. So if you want to spend money on kit, like, you go spend money on kit.
I think so as well. And it doesn't have to be a big setup, you know, like I've gone a bit overboard. No. I've gone overboard because I'm that person, you know. There's no in between. There's like no miles an hour laying on the sofa watching Netflix, or there's prep Martina, there's 140 miles an hour, and there's literally no in between. But I don't really intend to join a gym again. I think that I can get away with using the kit that I've got at home and then just going for 1 or 2 sessions a week on a day pass. Because I haven't got a leg press, for example. I love all the different kinds of leg presses and hack squat at King's. So I can go to King's and do that session there, but come home and do my squats and deadlifts and all my upper body I can just train at home. I actually never really used machines apart from hack squat and leg presses and leg extension. So I'm not missing the gym training, like the equipment. I'm missing the atmosphere and the people.
Yeah. It's the same for me. Obviously, I train at Ultraflex, and I see a lot of my friends at the gym, and the atmosphere is amazing. There's people there to spot you if you need it. The music's great. Like, it's just such a good atmosphere, and that's a large part of why I miss the gym, exactly like you said. And I said to AJ, I'll definitely still train at home a few times a week with the kit we've invested in, but I will still go to the gym because I miss the atmosphere and I miss the people.
Yeah, for sure. I was really surprised how many people did just go full, bought everything, and it's like, I'm not going to go back to the gym. But I think that we're all starting to realize now that it's not about the training, it is about the people.
Yeah,
and I certainly don't want to miss out on, especially when you really aren't feeling that motivated. It's a really good way, isn't it, to just pick up your games. You're looking at these other people smashing their goals, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to do that too.
And training with friends as well is just like priceless. It's so good. And there's so many benefits to it. Like, they can be a spot, they can be someone to push you for those few extra reps, and vice versa. It's just nice to have social interaction. It's so good for your health.
Definitely.
So like, that side of it I really do miss.
My friend is training with her friend every day on FaceTime, you know, and they're doing their workouts in their bedrooms. They take it in turns to write a program, but they just do every single day at 9 or whenever it is. They connect electronically and then they train together, but in their own bedrooms. They don't have any kit. Yeah, they've just got some bands, but they're really punishing themselves, to be honest. They have some big old sessions, and she's got amazing progress. And also, it was really notable that her diet has improved so much being at home, because the temptation isn't there, you know. And when you go to the supermarket, you're less likely to buy the yummy stuff when you're on track, but it's when you're out for friends, or, you know, you get caught having a few drinks and then the diet goes out the window, that she's in the kebab shop constantly. And now she's like, I finally got my nutrition under control. I think it's such a great time for people to just embed some better practices for themselves and really improve their health, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. Such a good opportunity, especially people who have a bit more time, who are able to prepare their own food now. They can train when they want. Like, a lot of the barriers to people achieving their like fat loss goals or whatever have been taken away, such as social occasions and having food everywhere, and not being able to prepare your meals in advance because you haven't got time. All of those barriers have been taken away, so it's such a good opportunity to actually, you know, take advantage of that.
Yeah, I found a key thing for me for staying on track nutrition wise is to continue to meal prep. So when I'm hungry, I don't just grab anything that's there or have to wait ages, 40 minutes for it to cook. I've still got my nice food that I enjoy, but it's going to be ready in 2 minutes. And it's gonna, I just managed to stay tighter in the off season, because I'm not just thinking, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to eat this instead. You know, I'm still hitting my targets because I meal prepped. So I've actually continued to do that during quarantine as well. Even though I could just make it fresh, I know what will happen. Because I know what I'm like. So I just tried to stay out of my own way in that respect, and just, carry on with the good practices that I picked up while I was prepping. Yeah. I agree. We've got 1 minute left.
I don't want to be halfway through saying something and then it cut off.
I've really enjoyed today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Martina.
Both go and do some legs in the sun. I think I'm going to try and go for a walk first while it's sunny, because I don't get any sun in my garden. So then get a bit of sun on my bones, probably get burnt, and then not be able to deadlift. But no, it was lovely. Thank you so much for today. And thank you to everyone who's watching. I'm going to put this on my story, but I'm also going to put it on my YouTube. So it is available from my link tree.
Cool. I'll post that later.
Yeah, cool. Bye, guys.
Bye.